presents to you Honest Talk.
Hi folks, today we are back with one more great and leading personality, Madam Jacqueline Kernot. Jacqui is a senior cybersecurity and risk management professional with over 20 years experience in consulting, startup and MSP management. Jacqui is currently a cyber partner with EY's financial services organization, where she is also the FSO Lead for Diversity and Inclusion. She is founding partner of the Better Cybersecurity Coalition, a global group leading thinking on new ways to approach cybersecurity problems. She is also chair of the largest and longest running body for women in the IT industry, Females in IT and Telecommunication. Jacqui is a former intelligence officer with the ADF and has completed Special Forces Planning, NATO engagement and information operations, as well as technical courses required for rank including ROAC. Her roles included support to 6th Brigade, 1st Commando Regiment, SOCOM and the 1st Intelligence Battalion. So, let's begin our talk with our today's guest, Madam Jacqueline Kernot.
So first of all, ma'am, I welcome you to in this session. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining and agreeing to share your thoughts with us. We are extremely very happy to have you for today's talk.
Thank you for having me. It's lovely to be here.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It's a privilege or it's a pleasure to have you. So moving to the topic of today's session, which we have chosen is the emergency of the doom of cybersecurity. I think, ma'am, you are the best person to answer my all queries regarding to this topic. So, ma'am, my first question to you, what are the top emerging cybersecurity challenges?
Well, we could really go on and on about the cybersecurity challenges. I think for individual people, there's a lot of challenges. Obviously, most of our lives are digital now. We're online all the time. We do everything digitally. I don't know about everybody over there, but I've basically, certainly, whilst we've been in lockdown, etc., I do almost everything over the internet now. I work all day over the internet, etc., and as you can imagine, that means that we've got a huge number of people online doing their work, sharing their personal data, and sometimes, as you'll see here, you're looking at the inside of my home, and that's the same for everybody really. So people have their children walking through videos, all of that data is going across the internet, and in some cases it's not very effectively secured. It's much more difficult for companies to secure their employees, for example, when they're working from home than it is if they're working in the corporate environment. So that's probably the primary risk, that we've all been forced so quickly to move to the digital world, and really not everybody is equipped, and that's everybody from individuals to corporations. So we probably don't have the right level of education and understanding in the community either of what the threats are and how to protect both ourselves and our children as more and more of our lives are online.
It was really a very quite insightful answer from your side, ma'am. I think the viewers, those who are watching this session, it will be beneficial as well as fruitful for them as well. Ma'am, my next question to you is, if we talk about our preparation against cyber crimes, then my question to you is, how much prepared we are for cyber warfare?
Well, it depends on which individual country you're talking about in regard to cyber warfare. I think most countries are reasonably ill prepared for cyber warfare. It's much easier to infiltrate systems with very little effort from other countries digitally than it is obviously to do it physically. I think given that we have stopped flights, etc., we're seeing a lot more activity around cybercrime and cyber warfare generally. Sometimes the actors are individuals, sometimes they're organised gangs, and sometimes they're other nation states who are looking to expand their intelligence networks, etc. So previously, obviously, people would send people to other countries to gather information, etc. And now that COVID has shut down travel and moving people around so much, there's certainly a huge investment from nation states around moving their espionage programs online. So that's a huge threat. How well prepared we are depends on which country you're talking to, but certainly I don't think anybody would be confident enough to say that they are hugely well prepared for nation state level cyber crime activity.
Indeed, ma'am. I think it's a kind of privilege that today we have got a chance to listen all these things from you. Ma'am, my next question to you: how sometimes unknowingly we get into the trap and become victim of cyber attacks? Could you please explain it with taking some examples?
Oh, look, you know, there's so many examples, it's hard to just pick a few. I think one of the things that's really important to think about is our own data. We often don't think about the data we create and where we store it, and how we transfer that data. So, you know, if I can give one huge tip, it's to really think about the data you create, the data you store, and where it's stored and who you're trusting with it. So when you make a video of your children at your home with your address in the background, you know, I'd think very carefully before I looked at putting that on Facebook or a social media post. If the data isn't created and it's not uploaded to the internet, then it's much more difficult to attack that data. But really, frankly, once the data is created and it's on the internet, especially social media, it's vulnerable. So I think generally social media encourages us to live our lives online and to upload a lot of data about ourselves. And certainly when you look at open source intelligence gathering around cyber, it's very easy to work out where people are physically going to be, who their children are, what schools their children go to, all without, you know, leaving the internet. So it's really important for all of us to be conscious about what data we're creating, what sensitive information might be in that data, and then where we put that data and who we trust with it, what applications, what systems, where do we store it, which companies do we trust with our data. And as they like to say, if you're not paying for the product, like most social media, you are the product. So be very careful about what about yourself you put online, because you're the product.
Indeed, ma'am. Ma'am, as you have talked about social media, so my next question to you: our life is nowadays so much influenced by social media, like that. Whenever we go outside, we post everything. We give an update on different social media platforms, post pictures. So I want to know your thoughts, ma'am. How much justified it is? Are we inviting the criminals by this?
Yeah, look, we are absolutely making ourselves vulnerable with that. I think one of the things that is a huge risk is that most children who are born now will already have a significant digital footprint by the time they turn 18. I'm very cautious about what I post about my family on the internet. It's very easy to live your whole life on social media, but I think you need to be really careful about making sure your location settings aren't included. You know, don't check in, don't put things where you are, you know, about where you are, photos of your home with your address in the background, or your children's school, or your children in school uniform. All those things have links to physical location data in the real world, and personally I don't put them online. That's the only way to really be safe, is not to ever put them online. So yeah, I think social media is a huge risk. And it's very easy to be encouraged to just pop everything online and assume it's safe. And really, that's not at all the case. So the less you put online, the better, really. And if you do put data online, think about what that picture contains. Doesn't have anything that can identify your house or your street or your work or your school, and don't post it if that's the case.
All right, ma'am. Again, it was a quite insightful answer from your side, and I think the viewers, those who are watching this session, of course, they are going to understand what actually it is. Ma'am, my next question to you: what can be the best ways to prevent ourselves as an individually, and if we talk about the organization, from different type of cyber crimes?
So again, being conscious of your data is extremely important. Being conscious of where you put it and what data you create. I think making sure that you think logically, and look, common sense, as they say, isn't very common. But if someone rings you and says, I'm from the bank and, you know, I want your password, the bank doesn't really ask you for your passwords online. So that doesn't make any sense. Where you can, a huge thing that will make a big difference to your online security generally is to always use two-factor authentication. So always look at getting the application to send you a passcode, or to use an authentication token or find a way to email yourself a password rather than just logging in with a username and password. That's certainly one huge tip to help keep yourself safe online. Make sure that you use another type of ID or passcode that's either sent to your phone or generated from a token to log into everything that you can rather than just passwords and usernames.
Again, ma'am, it was really a very wonderful answer from your side. Ma'am, my next question to you is, what will be the future of risk and challenges in digital era?
So, I think we're heading into the unknown. We've got some view of what things are going to be like. I think one of the big risks is the sheer volume of data and that more and more that we're putting everything online and we're engaging online so often. I think one of the huge problems actually online going forward, and something we really need to think about how we build into systems and how we regulate for it, is safety. One of the biggest risks I think on the internet today is the level of child exploitation and child grooming on the internet. So systems like TikTok, obviously the US is looking at banning TikTok, possibly for them because of some of the data that it's collecting and sending back to its parent company. But certainly I think there's a lot of risk on applications like that. And also with some of the other children's applications like Minecraft and Roblox, where there are examples of adults pretending to be children and engaging with smaller children online. I think probably in terms of the biggest risk that we face, that the lack of regulation around building safety into applications that particularly children use is something that we really need to address urgently, because it enables people who would exploit children to get access to them where they otherwise wouldn't be able to. If they were hanging around at school, they'd be chased off or someone would call the police, but online, no one's monitoring that. So I think that's something we need to really urgently look at, as a collective across countries and across the world, to look at how we really stamp out child exploitation and a lack of safety in applications that children use.
Again, ma'am, you mentioned very important points, and I think everyone, those who are watching this session, need to understand these points and apply in their life. Ma'am, my next question to you is, how artificial intelligence changing security landscapes and preventing cyber attacks?
So it's really interesting. Artificial intelligence, again, is a huge topic that I could talk about for days, but certainly being able to automate a response to attacks and pick up anomalous behaviour without necessarily having seen that behaviour before. So the ability to note that a new type of attack is happening because it's unusual behaviour on a network or system that we haven't seen before, without a human having to necessarily notice it and try and shut it down, is going to be hugely important. The sheer volume of attacks is another huge problem that AI and machine learning can address, because when we look at how much is now moving online and how big the pipes and systems are going to be for access to that, we just can't hire enough humans and train them to keep up with that volume of attacks that we're seeing. So being able to load some of that onto machines rather than having to hire humans to do it is going to be hugely important. And finally, really, there's, I guess, some upside with AI. We all hear about the bad things about machine learning and how the AI might become dangerous, and there's unconscious bias in AI and it's being reinforced. But there's also the possibility that once machines start to learn themselves, that they will start to unpick some of the bias, that they will start to pick up some of the lack of safety and account for it and do something about that. So I think if we design our systems correctly going into the future, to actually generally learn from the data rather than pick up the bias that they had, I think we've got some good opportunity to fix a lot of the issues that we've made through a lack of safety and security by design in applications and systems. So yeah, I think there's some good upside as well as some risk from attacks.
All right, ma'am. My next question to you is, if we talk about the career opportunities in cybersecurity field, then what they are and what will be in future?
Look, I think there's a huge amount of opportunities to both work in the cybersecurity domain and for cybersecurity to make a huge positive difference in people's lives. Machines obviously will really assist us to deliver the problem, but ultimately, every time machines learn a solution to a problem, you've got a new human finding a new way to get inside. So there's always going to be an opportunity for humans to be involved in making sure the bad guys don't get to the good stuff. And I think, we need all the good people that we can working in the industry. And I think there's some really positive opportunities going forward to really help people to use the internet and their computers safely and securely. So yeah, I think there's some good upside as well as some risks.
All right, ma'am. It was really a very wonderful advice as well as an answer from your side. And ma'am, I don't want to take you much time. And also, I think the kind of energy you brought into the session, it was really, really very, very inspiring. And I think the session will be fruitful for our viewers. But I don't want to take you much time today. There is a lot to learn from you, ma'am. So moving to the last question of this session, ma'am, the question is, or it's rather I want to seek advice from you from the side of our viewers from you that what are the things they must keep in their mind while surfing on internet, while updating their data. What will the things they must keep in their mind?
I think you need to understand your data. Know what the data is that you're producing, know who has access to it, know where you're putting it, know where it's stored, and know what you're doing with it, and understand the purpose to creating it. If you are, just making a video of yourself at home to upload online, maybe there's a good reason for that, but I'd question whether maybe that's the best thing that you could do with your data. Making sure you know where your data is stored, what you've created, and who has access to it is really important. So, and if we think about that every time we create data and every time we look at uploading it or sharing it to the internet, we're in a much better position to defend ourselves. It's where we don't think about data and just create it everywhere and don't think about what we put into the system that we create problems for ourselves. So.
All right, ma'am. It was really a very wonderful advice from your side, and I think this was a very healthy discussion with you on the topic. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining and giving your important time. We look forward to conduct more sessions with you in future.
Awesome. Thanks, Harsh. It was really lovely to talk to you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Same here.
Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe.